He has worked for Andy Elliott and Jeremy Minor. We got a special guest on today. His name's Alex Sabella. How did you get a job working for those guys?
I ended up messaging the COO of the Elliott Group. I messaged him, hey, what do I need to do to join? And he, out of nowhere, told me do 400 push-ups every single day for a month. So I actually did it.
Explain to me what the office looks like.
It was like a cowbell, and every time you got a sale, you just ring the bell really hard, and everybody would get super hyped up.
So you stopped working for him. What ended up happening there?
There was one day, out of nowhere, he points to me and he says, Alex, and he writes the number 20,000. And he says, you have to hit that within the next week or you're fired. That was my previous best month's revenue.
If you're interested in sales, you're going to love this episode. If you're interested in what it's like working for famous people that you see on social media, you're going to like this episode. If you're interested in what it's like to be a part of a high standard competitive culture, you're going to love this episode. We got a special guest on today. His name's Alex Sabella. Met through social media. It's internet friends. I say this all the time. Internet friends is how the new world works. But anyway, he has worked for Andy Elliott and Jeremy Minor. If those names don't ring a bell, go look them up on the online right now, and I'm sure you've seen them before. But let's dive right into this. Alex, thank you so much for coming on Gross Potential.
I'm super excited to be here. This is my first podcast for anybody listening on Spotify or wherever else this is broadcasted on.
Are you hyped? Are you nervous? How you
I'm
feeling?
very hyped. I mean, it's funny because again, like I had told you before, I've listened to quite a few of your episodes. So just when we connected on Instagram and then you messaged me that, I was like, cool. This is gonna be fun.
You know what I think the crazy part is? So it like you reaching out to me is a prime example of it. Just like, just shoot your shot. Like it really does not matter. I mean, we never would have had this podcast ever. We never would have got on a call together, known each other at all, if you don't just swipe up on a story one time and say, hey, maybe yada, yada, yada. So I think that's a fantastic lesson. And I even have to take after that lesson because I don't always do that stuff. But anyway, first question I got for you, Alex. So you work for Andy Elliott, you work for Jeremy Minor.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get a job working for those guys?
So, God, that's a really funny story. So I'm gonna give some background first because this goes all the way back to 2023. So I graduated high school in June of 2023, and I was sort of in the position where I had no idea what I wanted to do. I'd gotten into some schools, but they were all either schools I didn't want to go to, or they were just way too expensive. And I had seen all of these people online talking about sales, drop shipping, e-com, all the typical side hustles. And I thought to myself, okay, you know what? I have no idea what I want to do. I may as well just build a skill set before I jump, headfirst into 60K a year in debt. So I decided to get into sales. And actually, where I'm at right now, this is where I started in Napa. Started, hustling. I joined a program that cost $5,800. It was a sales mentorship program where they would, place you into a sales job. So I joined this offer where it's just straight cold calling. It was super unorganized. There wasn't really much to it, but that was the first sales job I really ever had, and it made me realize, damn, I suck at sales. Let me get some resources on how to get better. So that's when I went on YouTube, found Jeremy, found Andy Elliott, and I ended up, first thing I ever got was a Andy's Sales Warrior playbook. So that was really the first step, and this is where it gets interesting. There's one day where I'm eating lunch, and out of nowhere, I just get a call, and I just hear this massive amount of energy, and it's one of Andy Elliott's sales guys. And I mean, whoever's listening, I'm sure it's like a lot of like entrepreneurship people and business people, sales people in college, right? I knew exactly what was going to happen. So I was like, okay, I'm not about to get closed. But I ended up getting close, so I ended up buying an event ticket, and I just loved the energy. And I thought to myself, hey, if he can close me, this has got to be the place where you learn how to get really good at sales. I'm
Yeah.
just going to work here. So I that was sort of the point where I really wanted to like get into that whole world. So what ended up happening, I ended up messaging who he was at the time the COO of the Elliott Group. I messaged him, "Hey, I saw you on the FaceTime I was on with the guy that I was speaking to. What do I need to do to join?" And first off, he had said, buy the event ticket. I did that, but then he out of nowhere told me do 400 push-ups every single day for a month. That was the first thing he told me to do. So I actually did it. Like, I'm not bullshitting. I started. Wait, am I allowed to curse on this?
Yeah, yeah, you can say whatever you want. How
Okay.
how did they know that you did? Did you have to send him a video of you doing push-ups, or explain that?
So at first, I didn't really send any videos. I would just message him, did it, did it. But then as I started really getting into it, I would take time lapse videos of me
Yeah.
just doing 400, and I would send it to him every single day.
Wow.
And there were times where he like wouldn't even respond for 2 weeks. He would just leave them unopen, and I just kept sending them. And
Okay, okay. So you're sending this guy videos of you doing 400 push-ups every single day. You had to do 400 push-ups every single day to get a job. Okay, that's
yeah,
fine. So keep sending them. Sometimes he doesn't respond. Other times he does. So then, how does
yeah,
that transition into actually getting into the company?
yeah. So I ended up flying down to Scottsdale, Arizona. That's where the Elliott Group is for the event. And the guy that had sold me the ticket, we ended up becoming friends during that time. We were talking a lot. We kept in touch. He had told me he would get me an interview. And just through doing those push-ups as well, the COO, he ended up leaving like right when I got to Scottsdale. He left the company for another company.
Yeah.
But because I had done that, he basically said, "Hey, I respect you. You followed through. Even if I'm not at that company, I'm still going to put in a word." And that's how I got the interview.
Interesting. Okay, so for every single person that wants to get a job there, do they make them do 400 push-ups every day?
No, that
They
was
don't. It's
Andy.
just
Yeah,
like
apparently, Andy didn't even know about it. That was just like a random thing the guy told me to do.
interesting. And are you able to talk about the interview process at all? Like, is it a typical
Yeah,
interview style, or is there just crazy random things that you've never seen before?
it was pretty typical. So the first interview it wasn't with Andy. It was with one of the more senior people. They basically just asked us. It was me and another guy's name is Alan. I'm still really good friends with him. She just basically asked us a bunch of questions about where we came from, our sales experience, why we wanted to join the company, and for that interview, we actually both ended up getting rejected because we had only been to one event. Both of us had only been to one event, and all the employees at that company, they some of them have spent like $20,000 to $30,000 training with Andy. They were in car sales, and they killed it with this training. That's how they got hired. But yeah, she'd basically told us, hey, you need to invest more in yourself and with us, and we need to be around. You need to be around us more.
Yeah.
So we ended up getting the training program, the training platform, and then we tried basically selling their courses as affiliates first. We didn't end up getting any sales, but
Yeah.
just seeing that, we did that for 2 weeks. That's how we got the second interview with Andy.
Oh, so Andy interviewed you.
Yeah, in the end, he interviewed us. Then his wife, Jacqueline Elliott, she interviewed us for the final interview, and that's how we got the job.
Wow. Okay. So talk to me about that interview. Was it
It was
was it a
crazy.
typical critical? Is he challenging you? What does it look like?
He was trying to read us. He was trying to get a good feel for who we were. So the one thing Andy always says, the eyes are the windows to the soul.
Yeah.
The entire time he spoke to us, we would not break eye contact at all. So it was almost like him sizing us up, seeing if we could actually make it. And he was, asking us very similar questions, but then he was telling us about the culture there, what it was like, what to expect.
Yeah.
Almost almost to see if we could handle it because it was
So
intense.
so explain to me the eye thing. Because listen, I used to be someone that was not good at keeping eye contact, but as I got older, I found out that the more someone when I'm talking to someone, if they're not looking to me into the eye, first of all, I lose respect for them. Second of all, it makes it seem like they don't give a shit and they're not interested.
Yeah.
And third of all, it makes me less willing to open up, less willing to have a conversation. I hated that quality. I cannot stand when people don't look you in the eye when you're talking.
Yeah.
So I'm always looking at people in the eye when you're talking. But when I'm talking, I like to look up sometimes, and then when I hit a good point, I'll look back at you. You're
Yeah.
kind of a serial killer if you're in a conversation talking to someone and you're like this the whole time and you never break eye contact. Is that what he was doing? And if so, do you know what he meant by eyes are the window of the soul? Like why he does that?
Well, it wasn't like serial killer style because he's actually a super nice guy. He's down to earth.
Yeah.
What he meant by the eyes are the window to the soul, I think the meaning behind that is that you can sort of see somebody's intentions, whether or not they're good or bad, or where their heart is at. Like, have you ever looked at people? You look at their eyes, and you can just tell they're just super unalert. They're not really paying attention, and
Yes.
they're just not there.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you see
Okay.
other people that, they just have that look to them, right? Where you can just see pure confidence.
Interesting. Okay,
I think
cool.
that's
So let's get into a little bit more about okay, so you get the job, you interview with Andy,
yeah.
day one. Now, what's it like working for Andy Elliott and the Elliott Group?
Well, I mean, first off, you had to get a 6-pack or else you'd get fired. That didn't actually happen.
Oh, so that's fallacy. That's not true.
Yeah.
Okay.
They value fitness a lot, but so Alan and we started off as DM setters. So that was what they were hiring for. It was a brand new department, so we were sort of the test people for that. So first day, we just get our laptops out, we get connected to the CRM, and then we're just sending tons of messages through his Instagram.
Okay. And then like specifically though, like the office, I assume, is it in person or is it remote?
In person.
Okay, so it's in person. Explain to
Yeah.
me what the office looks like. Are there no cubicles? Is everybody sitting there next to is it kind of like the trenches? Everybody's on the phone. Is he walking around yelling at people? What does that look like?
It's the coolest environment ever.
Really?
So it's not really any cubicles. There are offices, but all the walls are made of glass, so you can see everything. A lot of standing desks, and yeah, everybody's just dialing, getting after it. There's always a team meeting every other day, and just people piping each other up, trying to change lives and self-improve, self-develop.
So is it an office where like you get a sale and you're going, let's go, like you're yelling, you're getting fired up. That's what that culture's like. Really?
Yeah, you would get a sale. There was like a cowbell, and every time you got a sale, you would just ring the bell really hard, and everybody would get super hyped up.
Interesting. Do you think that helps people work a little bit harder?
Oh, 100%. It was the
How
best fee. Even if it was a $99 sale, like super super low ticket, ringing that bell, it was just the biggest endorphin hit that you could ask for because it just meant that you were making progress. And the courses as well, they're actually really good too, and they were like some people, they were actually really able to like change the trajectory of their sales.
So I'm sure we've all seen movies. Maybe it's like The Wolf of Wall Street.
Hmm.
other movies like that where you got some studs like in Andy Elliott, right? They run
Yeah.
this company, they're top shit, and they walk around the office and they'll Grant Cardone does this. This is the best example. It's like the office, they have their employees and they'll walk around, they'll come up right next to you and they'll just be in your shoulder like this and they'll be listening to you. And maybe some of it's a test to put pressure on you, maybe some of it's feedback. Is he that type of leader or is he doing his own stuff with in his office?
He's sort of doing his own stuff.
Okay.
He would occasionally listen to you, and there were some times where I would actually be in the same room calling, and the entire time I was just thinking, okay, he's definitely judging me right now. But it was actually a lot of it was the team that would listen to you because everybody was just super focused on helping everybody else improve. So,
Yeah.
you'd be on a call and then somebody would come up next to you, they'd listen in. If the person said something, they would, tell you to mute your phone. They would tell you how to say something else. You would say that and, just help close the deal.
That sounds like a very fun culture to be in. Like I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, it
It
was
sounds like
incredible.
a lot of fun. And
Yeah.
so when we spoke before this, you were saying like you were working some long hours. And I'm sure some other people will. Was there like a standard time like you gotta be in at the office at this time and this is when you gotta leave? Like what does a typical day look like?
I would on a typical day towards the end I was working much much harder, but on a typical day average I would say I would get in there at around 7:30 and then I'd be done by around 5:30 to 6.
Oh, so that's I mean it's still longer than a 9 to 5, but
Yeah.
not too crazy. And so are other people doing that too? Or like what is the best performer? How long is he working?
I mean the best performers they were actually it's funny. I've noticed this from a lot of like top performing salespeople. The best performers that were bringing in the most commission, they would work 7 to 8 hours. But
Really?
yeah, there were some people that were doing the same as me. They'd get in between 7 a.m. to 7:30. They'd leave between 5:30, 6:30, sometimes even 7:30. But for the most part, it was pretty relaxed.
Okay. So I saw a clip on the internet
Yeah,
and it was like this guy who it was Andy Elliott and he was getting interviewed and he was talking about, so sometimes if I see my employees and they're having a down day or they just look down, they're not feeling it, I'll go up to
yeah.
them and I'll say, go to the gym for an hour. Midday, 9 a.m., 10 a.m., noon. Just
Hmm.
go to the gym for an hour. Do those types of things really happen with the
Yeah.
Elliott group?
Uh huh.
Really?
Yeah. The thing with Andy, he he was very tough, but he was also very fair, and he had everybody's best interest at heart. So there were times, and like especially like when I was first getting started, where I'd get my teeth kicked in, where a lot of the people on the team they would say something like that, or like Andy, he would give you a pep talk, and you would just feel like $1,000,000 afterwards.
Do you have any stories?
Any stories of what?
Like you come in, you're not doing well. It could be either side of it. Like kind of getting chewed out, or like that pep talk that just fires you back up.
Yeah, yeah. No, there was a there was one day where I was just not getting any sales. I was having trouble connecting on the phone. I was just overall super in my head. He noticed that, and like I was low key getting emotional. It was like to that point,
Mm.
and I forget what he said, but just he pulled me aside, put his hand on my shoulder, talked to me, and afterwards it was like, okay, I can fucking do this.
Really? So
Yeah.
I think something you mentioned earlier is like you think Andy Elliott is one of the best. It's sales leadership trainers in the world, right? Or am I
I think
mistaken?
hands down, he's in terms of leadership training, becoming a better human being, he is one of the top people in the space just because of how enthusiastic and disciplined he is with everything he does.
So when you work for a guy like that,
Yeah.
what skills do you take out of it? Obviously, you get the skill of sales. Do you think your mindset's better? Are you a better leader? Or like how have you transformed since working there?
Your mindset definitely improves because you're just in a setting of, 20 to 30 people being absolutely just amped up, happy to be there, happy to improve, excited. So it it really highlighted the importance of just leveling up your mindset. So I would say that leadership, being able to guide people,
Yeah.
and this is a bit of a smaller thing for me too, but public speaking, quite
Mm-hmm.
frankly, because during team meetings, especially, there were times where I would get up in front of 20 people and I would say something, and at first, have you ever done public? You've done public speaking, right?
I've taken a class on speak. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm not speaking well right now, but I've taken a class on public speaking. Yeah.
So you know that first feeling where you're so fixated on people potentially judging you,
Yes.
just that being able to speak to just big groups of people, I think that's sort of what helped me overcome that.
Okay.
I still struggle with it, but it was a massive change mentally for being able to overcome it.
I I bet. And the whole thing about judging, I think that's the biggest fear. Like public speaking is one of the biggest fears out of every single person. But
Yeah.
like I gotta feel like if you're gonna go into the Elliott group and you're gonna work for him, I mean Andy's putting on what, like how many people come to his shows? Thousands of multiple thousands of people, and he's
A
speaking in
couple
front of.
hundred usually per event, and then other events where he'll speak at, he'll bring thousands of people.
Okay. What about on the side of like sales training?
Uh-huh.
So you worked with two of the biggest names in sales, like
Yeah.
Andy Elliott, Jeremy Minor, and I
Yeah.
believe they have two different styles.
Yeah.
How did those styles differentiate from each other?
Hmm. So I was only with Jeremy very briefly, but his style, NEPQ, which stands for neuro emotional persuasion questioning,
Hmm.
is different in the sense that it's more question based and it's very formulaic as to how you go about the sale. Andy's style of selling is very effective as well. It's more centered around confidence, though, and leadership, being able to guide somebody through something.
Hmm. Which one? Okay, so you said Jeremy's though is very effective no matter what
Yeah.
industry you're in. But then maybe an Andy Elliott is what? Is it pigeonholed more to the car sales, or is it also very transferable to any industry?
I would say it's very transferable. It's more tailored to the car industry. NEPQ, I would say, is probably the most difficult style of selling to learn, but that would be the most transferable just because it is very in line with human behavior and the way people
Oh,
function.
interesting. Why is it so difficult? Can you break it down? I hear NEPQ, I hear questions.
Yeah.
Able to break it down a little bit? Okay.
It's because so NEPQ, you have different stages of the sell, and you're trying to you're trying to get certain things at certain stages. So an example is, the beginning of the sale, a couple of the components that Jeremy teaches, you want to disarm the prospect and you want to find a tangible problem. It's not following a script. It's
Okay.
following the framework, and oftentimes, you're gonna know what questions to ask, but if you don't know where to follow, if you don't get a specific answer, that's where it gets really difficult.
Gotcha. Okay, so do you have any stories disarming the prospect? I got to think that's a pretty important thing, and it's pretty
Yeah.
transferable just to life in general. Like,
Yeah.
you got any phone call stories?
No, definitely. I mean, just as simple as when you're starting the call, if you say somebody's name in a familiar tone, that'll immediately start it off right. Like instead of saying, "Hey, is this Anthony?" you would just say, "Hey, Anthony."
Oh, interesting. And
They're
you find
gonna
that that works.
if you have the right tonality, it works. If you sound
Okay.
like a dweeb or like you're not confident, then you're not gonna, it's not gonna end well for you.
What okay, so I started a marketing agency it was my sophomore year, junior year of college, and
Yeah,
I was on YouTube watching frickin' Jeremy Miner every single day, like
yeah.
studying his content because I had to cold call to get some positions and I had no idea what I was doing.
Mm.
So I'm watching this stuff, and yeah, tonality was huge. It was a thing like that. It's like you come on and say, it's not, is this Anthony? It's like, hey, Alex, it's Anthony, or I'm forgetting, whatever. But so tonality. But one of the things that Jeremy Miner would talk about in his videos that I thought was very funny. It's like when you pose a question or something and someone
Yeah.
comes back with an objection, it's like,
Uh-huh.
no, I'm not interested. What he would always say is, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. I thought that was the funniest thing in the world. And I tried it, and I'm really sure it's effective, but like I sounded like a moron because I couldn't get it with my tonality and stuff wouldn't go well. But I thought that was very unique from him that I've never heard before.
There are other sales trainers and people very proficient in NEPQ that were at seventh level or still are. Like a guy that I think I told you about him, Matt Ryder. He was the CEO of seventh level. He where was I going with this? Just little things that Jeremy does, like I didn't mean to offend you. There's a chance, I don't know if he would say it or not, but he sells NEPQ differently. So
Matt Ryder or
Matt Ryder, yeah, and people, everybody has a different style of doing NEPQ,
God,
and the reason for that is because you can't beat Jeremy
right.
because he's perfected it. He's so good at it. But for a lot of people, including me, like there's just some like aspects of the tonality where it just doesn't sound natural, and people can sort of follow along with that.
Wait, so how much of when you're at the LA group and seventh level
Yeah,
and you're getting training, how much of it is just like focusing on script, 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 get this down, get this down, get this wired, and how much is like teaching maybe a concept?
I would say I would say for both of them, it was more concept based. For the
Yeah.
actual training for the consumer side, for people that are in sales, there's a lot of scripting to it,
Okay.
and that's important too because you don't want to be reading off a script, but you want to have the script memorized because you'll hear something and you'll know exactly what to say.
Right.
If that makes
Okay.
sense.
Yeah, so it's good to have some things in the back burner in case there's a dead period. Like you want to be prepared for it.
Uh huh.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. Um regarding regarding Andy Elliott and working from.
Yeah.
So you stopped working from.
Yeah.
Why what ended up happening there?
So I would say it was a mixture of a couple of things. I think at the time, the reason for why I left, part of why I left was that I just wasn't mature enough. But
Makes sense.
part of what triggered that, there was one day we were having a team meeting. This is an interesting story. Out of nowhere, he points to me and he says, Alex, and he writes the number 20,000. Wait, it may have been 25,000. It was one of those numbers, but he writes 20,000 on the whiteboard. Let's just use that number. And he says, you have to hit that within the next week or you're fired. And that was my previous best month's revenue.
Hmm. Wait,
So
months revenue?
month's revenue because he paid 30% commission. He was super
Holy cow.
generous with that. So I basically had to hit my month's revenue in a week or else I was gone. And I ended up being like $2,000 short of hitting that.
That's impressive though. Like, okay, so you have to get your previous month's record in a single week.
Yeah.
What does that week look like?
It looked like working for 12 to 15 hours a day And in the last 2 days, I only got about 48 hours. I only got about 2 to 3 hours of sleep
Jeez.
because I was staying at the office calling different time zones and calling people until literally 3 a.m.
Wow. So during that week, are you running off enthusiasm? Are you just running off of just an inner motivational fuel, or do you get burned out? Like, do you feel overwhelmed? Walk me through what was going through your head that week.
Oh, I was super overwhelmed,
You were.
because that job, like I loved that company and it was a ton of fun. It was like, okay, I have planned out, the next 1 to 2 years, 1 to 3 years, I want to be at this company. This is in jeopardy. So that, I mean, just to add on, that made selling difficult too, because you weren't
Yeah.
selling from a place of abundance, you were selling from a place of scarcity.
Mm.
So that was sort of keeping me going, and stimulants, lots of lots of stimulants were keeping me going.
A little caffeine. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I've got you can't see this, but I've got like 7 bottles of Ghost energy drinks on my desk over there.
Do you like Ghost? I've never had it before.
They're really good. Ghost and
Yeah.
Celsius.
So Ghost has. I'm. It's a little bit off topic, but it's a fair point. I'm. There's a lot like the energy drink sector is it's very saturated, but Ghost came out around like COVID. Well, there's still a bunch of other competitors, but there's something about their packaging and their branding is very well done, and it's impressive.
Yeah,
And I think that's why they're so successful.
yeah, and it also it's basically liquid crack too.
Is it? It's that good. It's better than a Monster. It's better than.
I've actually never had Monster.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Have
I
you
would
ever
say
heard of?
so.
All right. Well, I'm gonna try Ghost. I've had Bang before. I rip 5 hour energies, but Ghost will be up on there.
Didn't you do a podcast with Lexi, the health girl?
I did. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
I
don't
had
think
her
she
on.
would like you saying that.
No,
Drinking
she
energy
won't. But
drinks.
this is the thing. I'm not a health god. Like I'm just trying to have it. Listen, I'm trying to have low face fat. I'm trying to have a six pack. I'm trying to look lean.
Yeah,
If I can eat ice cream or I can eat whatever else and still have this physique, I'm gonna do it. Like I'm not over the top, but mad respect to Lexi with what she does. Like she's all about it. It's not a facade. Like this girl's dead serious, which you gotta
yeah.
respect. All right, so question. Sometimes in the game of like leadership, you can see your boss that really tough on one person. Maybe he has it out, but then there's this one guy that he has a secret soft spot for. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the work ethic. Maybe he's sucking up to him. A guy like Andy Elliott or a Jeremy Minor, are they consistent with how they approach every single employee, or are there some people that they may have soft spots for?
Well, I'll ask you this: who do you think a boss is more likely to respect? Somebody that is putting in 200% effort, they're putting up a couple $100,000 in revenue, or somebody who's maybe putting in 50% effort and putting up 50,000 in revenue? I think the standards for everybody are the same. You have to give it your 100%. And with both of them, and especially Andy, because again, Andy was super fair. Even if you weren't putting up the most amount of revenue, if he saw that you were giving, your absolute everything, he would respect that. And the same thing with Jeremy. But obviously, if you're putting up a couple 100,000 in revenue and you're a massive asset to the company, that's going to be when you get some perks and stuff like that.
Okay, so what type of person succeeds in these environments, and what type of person doesn't succeed?
That's a really good question. And especially for people that are thinking about getting in sales or, contemplating sales, you need to be an absolute psychopath. And by psychopath, I mean you need to have an insane amount of grit and you need to have a mindset that isn't easily swayed you're hit with when you're hit with issues and obstacles. That makes sense.
Yeah. And
There,
go ahead.
I was gonna say at seventh level, the top producer, his name was Yash. He was 19 years old, or he is 19 years old. Started working for Jeremy when he was 15 years old. Dropped out. He was a high school dropout. Sold for seventh level. According to him and other people, he was working 6 days a week from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Wow.
Taking an insane amount of calls. And that while he was, 15, 16, 17, 18 years old.
That's what you gotta love about sales. Like,
Yeah.
bro, it doesn't matter what age you are. Like, if you got the work ethic and you can speak and you're a student of the game, I've got to feel like you can succeed with it. You started sales at what? What age did you start doing this stuff?
I
Was
started
it
sales, selling related things. I was 17 because I ran a home service business in high school. I was doing like some door to door, but officially I started off at 18 when I almost like a month before I turned 19 years old.
do you think this is the best skill you can have in the game of business? I know we hear this a lot, but do you really think it is?
I would actually say no. I
No.
would say the ability to market and run online ads like Facebook ads, Google ads, and drive traffic. I think that's the most valuable skill, and I think sales is the second most valuable skill because if you can generate leads and either your marketing is so good to the point where you don't need a salesperson or you're able to hire a sales team, that's where you're able to have fun with ad spend and really just scale things up. And that you can reach thousands of people versus when you're selling you can only speak to one person at a time.
It's actually a great point because when you think about it, Elliott Group, it's marketing. A
Yeah,
lot of it's marketing. Like, it's entirely marketing, which is crazy. And you know what? I post content and people come at me all. It's TikTok, Instagrams. I love Instagram, and you can build real connections with people. It's not the
yeah.
same with TikTok, but
Hmm.
I'm always getting clowned because I study marketing, and it's just a funny thing. Like, everybody hates on it because they think it's easy,
Yeah.
but it's easily sales and marketing the two most important skills, in my opinion, in the game of business. And you can pretty much start anything from nothing if you have
Yeah.
those two skills.
Actually, I have a question for you. How does, because you're a marketing major, how does how do your college marketing classes compare to what you're doing with your personal brand, the podcast, and what of like what Ryan is doing, Maureen, like that world of marketing?
Yeah, so there's certain types of marketing that really spark my interest. Anything with data and like consumer trends and market research, not my cup of tea. Like, very, very important stuff. Extremely important, maybe more important than the creative side, but it's not my cup of tea. A lot of this stuff is maybe analytical focused. All the core classes are analytically focused like that. But the great thing with marketing is a ton of it evolves around human psychology.
Yeah.
And that is the type of stuff that fires me up. And so I had a class last semester. What was it called? I can't remember what it was called, but it was a very interesting class. And you're learning about all these things that companies do with branding and human
Yeah.
psychology, and these tips and tricks of influence and persuasion. And there's certain things that I remember from that class all the time, and I implement it in my content. For example, one of the things with this podcast, this started off as across the aisle. Like, we were talking current events, and then I found out, like, yeah, I don't really want to do current events anymore. But one thing that I learned in this marketing class at school is like the whole concept of branding. You can change your brand, totally
Yeah.
fine, but you have to do it gradually. Like, it can be slow, 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 and this. When you're changing a logo, okay, across the aisle it's red. Well, if I'm going
Yeah.
to go to gross potential, why don't I keep the same logo format, maybe a little bit of differences, and if I still want to change it over time, do it gradually. Tips and tricks like that, and it's so applicable to content too. Like if I'm making videos, I'm the lifestyle guy at first. That's all I am. But I don't want to
Oh,
just be the lifestyle. I want to do more. So how
yeah,
do I do more? A gradual process. But
yeah.
it's very helpful if you show up, but that's kind of how it works.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
So
And
I
go
was
ahead.
also going to ask, do you feel like it would does it like teach do your classes teach you how to like run Facebook ads, Google ads, or is it more, theory as to the psychology as you had mentioned?
No, so classes have nothing to do with running online businesses. Nothing. You
Wow.
never get a class on ads. It's way more, it's kind of just like that's more nitty gritty specific. You
Yeah.
don't have any options to go specific. It's
Oh,
like way more vague, overarching stuff. Does your college offer that type of stuff?
I have no idea. I mean, we'll probably get into that, but I'm like a semester in, so I haven't experienced that yet.
Right. And you're taking gen eds right now.
Yeah, it's mainly just gen eds.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, no wonder, and I'm not saying this is the best thing, but no wonder people come out against college and say that types of stuff. Like, personally, and I'd like to hear your opinion on this, but like generations change. We are not in the same day and age as we were 50 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever it is. But I don't feel like there's always a ton of adaptation, like in the education system. Like we're living in an online world right now. Don't you think there should be a bunch of classes dedicated to content, to social media, to running ads, to doing some of the nitty gritty specific things? And that's why it's such a big business for this online coaching, is because colleges just don't adapt. And I don't know why it is. I don't know what it is, but they don't. And it's a huge gap in the market for online coaches to exploit.
No, for sure, it's definitely different. The one thing, I mean, this really connects to everything I've experienced, having gone straight into sales out of high school and having gotten to know so many different just business owners and very high level people. The one thing I will say a college degree gets you, which is partly actually basically the only reason why I'm actually not the only reason, but it's one of the biggest reasons why I'm pursuing it, is
Mm-hmm.
a foot in the door. Because like a lot of colleges, you're right, they haven't adapted to the new online world. They don't have courses on AI, on how to run Facebook ads, but a lot of companies too, especially big companies, are similar in the sense where to get your foot in the door and to even get an interview, get past the AI screener, you need to have a college degree on your resume, or else they're not even going to accept you. Same thing with promotions.
100%. I mean, especially you mentioned what you're trying to get into private equity.
No, I'm not. I really don't know which direction I want to go, and I like selling a lot. I see myself doing something in the distant future with marketing, really diving into that, similar to I think what you see yourself doing long term. But just to keep the doors open of whether or not I decide, hey, I do actually want to do something that's a little more corporate or 9 to 5y. Maybe I don't want to run a business.
Yeah.
That is ultimately why I'm deciding to go down that route, pursuing a degree, because I don't want to be 30 or 40 years old and be asking myself, okay, what if I had gone that route?
Right. So a little bit of a do you know Caleb Durbin?
No.
Okay, so he's like he's fighting for a spot on the Brewers right now for opening day roster. Went to my
Yeah.
school, drafted out of D3, stud. Like stud. He's
Yeah.
5'6", complete underdog.
Yeah.
One of the things he talked about on the podcast when I had him in is he's like, I came to Wash U because it gave me a backup plan. Like it gave me a plan B. And that ease of mind actually helped me perform better with baseball, which I think is a little bit weird because I feel like sometimes burning the boats is actually a good thing. And it forces you to come in and do it. But he's like, no, like that ease of mind actually helped me out a lot. it sounds like it's kind of the same thing. Like, keep the doors open, go from there.
Mhm. I mean,
Yeah.
there's definitely a trade-off because I'm working probably 15 to 16 hours a day, juggling classes in with work, being able to hit the gym. But, I'm at a point where I think it's very similar. I'm happy in a sense that I'm doing it because I'm not going to have any excuses. I'm not going to, have that feeling of asking, oh, what if I had gone all in on business? What if I had gone to school? And for some people, I think it's worth it to just go all in on business if they're like super, super dialed in on, what it is they want to do, if they're absolutely certain they want to do XYZ. But like for me, I'm just not that person.
Yeah.
So that's my justification as well. So I value the backup plan as well, like him, it sounds like.
And okay, so 15, 16-hour days, that's a lot. Like, respect, brother. Respect. And you're the job you're working is sales, correct?
Yeah, I'm still working a sales job. I ended up so I work for a tax strategy firm now. Doing it's more of a B2B sale,
Yeah.
but no, it's been a lot of fun so far. That's what I'm doing for 6 to 8 hours a day.
So what's the best sale trick you have? And it could be from uh, the two companies. What's the best sales trick you learned?
You know, it's actually something I got from actually neither of those companies. It's from a guy named David. He's one of my really good friends and mentors. He sold for a Fortune 500 company for about 2 years. Prodigy when it comes to selling. Just asking the question, what's holding you back from being absolutely certain this is going to work?
Hmm. Why is it
Because
so effective?
often, because it sort of calls it out in a sense. Hey, and like the reality with sales as well, everything is around certainty. If Yeah, if for you, for example, if you 100% knew that if you pressed a button, you would get $1 million, would you press the button?
Yep.
Yeah. So, you're selling either getting your time back, health, wealth, or relationships. So, if somebody's giving you an objection or they don't want to move forward, there's a part of them that isn't sold on the idea that it's going to work for them, or it's just a money thing. So, by asking, hey, what's holding you back from being 100% certain? That's just such a direct question for a lot of people that'll, cause them to be truthful, and then you can handle it.
So what happens if like the objection they give you? How do you
Yeah.
spin it? Because you hear that NEPQ and it's like question, question, question.
Yeah.
Andy Elliott, it's guiding. So right now, when you're in your job and you ask that question and they give you the objection, how do you handle the objection?
Well, I mean, it depends because, oftentimes, like with what I'm selling, it often revolves around trust,
Mm.
and because a lot of people have been burnt before, and if you find the root cause of what is actually going on behind the objection, then you're able to build clarity and reassurance that it's going to work. Because oftentimes, if you tell somebody, hey, you're going to be able to make XYZ or save $100,000, and they're uncertain, there's most likely a high chance that they want to believe it works.
Mm.
They're just not convinced yet. So it's your job to actually convince them.
So when you're convincing, are
Persuading,
you
that's a better word.
when you're persuading, are you trying to tell stories? Are you trying to ask questions? Do you have examples? Like what's your best example with this? Your favorite sale?
I would say, because a good analogy you can really connect anything to is fitness. So, like going to the gym, working out. Like, for example, if somebody says, hey, I really like this, but I'm going to wait a couple weeks, you can connect it to the analogy of, hey, if somebody's 300 pounds and they say they're going to do it, but they say they're going to go to the gym, but they're going to go in 2 weeks. Do you think that mentality is going to help that person lose weight?
Mm. I
No.
like
So the question is, what's really going on in that person's mind from actually doing it.
Okay, so that's a huge part in storytelling too.
Yeah.
Like something I'm starting to realize, and I just realized it from watching all these podcasts. Like one of the main ones I used to watch was PBD podcast, and Patrick Bet David is one of the best storytellers I've ever listened to. And the
Yep.
way he tells a story or the way he tries to sell you on something, it's not here, do this. It's connecting it as a metaphor,
Yeah.
or it's like bringing in this thing that's completely unrelated, indirect, that just like registers in our brain a little bit better. And I find it fascinating, but it's a hard thing to do. Like it's tough to think off the dome with these types of things. I don't know if you've experienced that before.
Well, I mean, because really at the end of the day, every sale is essentially the same. It's just different circumstances. If you've had enough reps, you just choose one or two stories that resonate with everybody. You use them
Uh,
over and over again. So I would say most likely that's what he's done because he's been in the game for so long.
yeah. Have you read the book The Game by Neil Strauss?
I have not.
All right.
Sounds
It's
like a really good read.
Claude recommended it to me,
Yeah.
but it's a game on like pickup artists. So girls that or guys that go and they're good at picking up girls.
Yeah.
But it's like the same story. Like they have all these preset things that they do, all these openers, all these negs, all these this and that. And it's like all in the back of their head and just boom, you run on autopilot. So it's listen, it's a game on picking up girls, but it is applicable to every single day life. Like it is everything to do with sales. It is everything to do with succeeding in your career, interacting with people, being a leader. Very interesting book. I actually cannot recommend that enough. So it's
I gotta get onto that.
you do. All right, last question. I know we're wrapping up here. Um, give me the craziest story that you have from your experience with two of these guys, like these big names. Craziest story from Jeremy Minor or Andy Elliott.
I would say this relates a lot more to Andy, but it was actually this is the most fun close I've ever had when my entire sales career. So actually you interviewed her on the podcast, Maureen.
Love Marine. She's a stud. Yes.
Yeah. So probably closing her on going to the Patrick Bet David event in Scottsdale. I think that's what the one she went to. Yeah, she went to that one. Closing her on a $2,000 Andy Elliott event was probably the most fun thing because the entire process of that happening was just us building a friendship. So just the story behind that, one of her videos ended up coming into my Instagram feed in like February of 24. And I just thought it was cool. So I DM'd her and I was like, hey, cool video. Hope you're crushing it. And from there, we just started messaging back and forth. We got on a FaceTime call. I was giving her some sales game. She was telling me about what she's doing with her marketing operation. And she ended up coming to Arizona, and we went hiking to in Sedona because she was meeting up with a client there. And from there, it was just, building a ton of value. We were getting closer and closer, becoming really good friends. And then I was like, hey, you should just go to this event. It would, I think, be really, really cool for you to, meet the people because a lot of super high level people go to those events.
Yeah.
And she gave me literally every single objection in the book, but I ended up closing it. And then just her going there, she told me she met a lot of really cool people, and now she lives in Scottsdale. That's just super cool to me because you close a deal, and then there's so many different ripple effects that happen as a result of that. Like me, for example, had I not been cold called by some random guy at the Elliott Group and closed on an event ticket, I never would have moved to Arizona and met all of these people, and we probably wouldn't even be on this podcast as a result of that.
Right. It's crazy to think about how everything happens for a reason. But closing Marine,
Yeah.
I interviewed Marine, and she's crazy smart. She's crazy driven.
Yeah.
Like, very, very impressive girl. And my parents were listening to that podcast, and they're like, "I love Marine. Like, she is
It's
fantastic.
awesome.
She is." But to be able to close someone like that, who doesn't really, maybe she needs it, maybe she doesn't, but it's not just going to be wishy washy. Hey, come to this. I'm going to do it. It's a testament to you. Like, it's impressive stuff. So kudos to you.
I mean, it wasn't even about it at that point. It wasn't even about getting the sale. I just knew that it would benefit her in so many ways. And like Jeremy talks about this a lot. Selling is helping people. And like, did she need the event ticket? Probably not. Actually, most likely not. But would it, add a lot of connections, and would it be super beneficial? Yeah. And I'd sort of seen that in what it had done for other people, and it was like, okay, this would be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds awesome. Is there anything else that you want to touch base on that we haven't covered yet?
I would say the one thing I'm going to say, because when I was listening, because I've listened to quite a few of your podcast episodes, and part of the reason as to what intrigued me so much into listening was that I wanted to know other people's come up stories, and how they got to the point they were at, like what circumstances occurred in their life for them to Claude, for example, getting into sales, running a business while in college. And I would say the biggest thing is just to anybody listening that's like just getting started out, or they're uncertain about what they want to do, is that I think everybody's on that boat, and it just takes a ton of time and self-reflection. And I'm imagining right now, if there was like a version of me listening to this right now, I would say something super corny. Everything happens for a reason. But
It's true.
everybody's journey is just so unique. And even if, you're not winning in that exact moment, as long as you just continue to push forward and give it your 100%, you're bound to succeed at something. I feel like that's what I would want to end this off with.
Could not agree more. And on the topic of uncertainty,
Yeah.
I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters whatever point in your life. Like, if you're not uncertain, it's probably a red flag, because I don't think you're dreaming big enough. And I don't think you're working hard enough. You're getting a little bit too uncomfortable. It's a good problem to have, is what I like to say. And that is very, very, very well said. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Alex, for coming on. It was a very interesting podcast. I had a blast learning about this types of stuff, hearing a little bit about your story, teaching me on the game of sales. It was very fun. Where can people find you if they want to connect?
Yeah, people can find me on Instagram. It's at Alex SAB01, Alex Sabo1. And I know I'm always happy to just message people. And if you ever want like feedback on sales, anything like that, if you have questions about school, I'm always open to messaging, answering any questions.
Money. Awesome. Thank you guys for tuning in to Gross Potential. I hope you enjoyed our episode. We are doing 2025 very hot. Got a lot of big guests on. We're going to keep pumping out this types of stuff, having fantastic conversations. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.